Hello everyone, I'm Alicia. Welcome to my Beautiful Nights channel. For this video, I'm going to show you guys how to make a daisy chain lariat. I have several lariat tutorials, by the way. If you've never seen them, you can go to my Beautiful Nights YouTube channel, go to playlists, and then go to necklaces, and you'll see all the different variations of lariats that I've made in the past. Now, this lariat is only going to wrap around our neck one time, and then we pass this flower here through the loop. So really, it's just a fancy looking necklace with a flower clasp. But what I really like about this lariat is it can be worn as a bracelet. It will wrap around your wrist 3 times. And also, everybody is going to be able to make this design because you can use whatever beads you want to make this from your stash. You do not have to use these exact beads here. Now, there are some things that you have to follow exactly in order to make this work. For example, you will need 4 feet of thread. You're gonna need a size 10 beading needle. But your seed beads, you don't have to use a name brand seed bead. You can use cheapo seed beads. And I'm using a 5mm melon bead for the center of my flower, but you can use a 4 instead. It does not have to be a 5. You could do a 4 instead. And I think you could even do 11/0 seed beads. I'm using a Toho, by the way, in case you are wondering. I think you could do 11/0 seed beads or 10/0s for the petals, and for the center of the flower you might even be able to get away with a 6/0 seed bead. Just test it out, try it, and see what it's like. But all these other beads here that I'm using, these are all optional. You can play around with your beads. Totally do it whatever you want. Now for the closure, I am doing a button. It's not a button, but I'm using it as a button. It's a Czech flat flower bead. I think this is called a forget-me-not flower. I'm using this as my closure. It's kind of like a button, but you can use a button if you want to as a closure, or you can do a lobster claw, whatever you want. It's totally up to you. And I also have this little bell flower here. I will be putting this on the bottom of this flower to stabilize the flower more, and plus I thought it looked better. But yes, you guys can totally play around. So things that you definitely need to make this is thread, of course. I'm using 8-pound fireline. I would have liked it to be 10 stronger because this is kind of a stringing project, but you have many different options. And did you guys realize that there's actually several variations of the daisy chain? The one that I did a tutorial back in the day that has over 1 million views, that was my most favorite daisy chain stitch, and that's why I did a tutorial on that one. But the stitch I'm going to show you today is a single flower variation. So let's go ahead and go over the list of materials I'm using. And by the way, the beads I am using are from the Dollar Bead Box. So if you got that subscription, you can make the same necklace. So now I'm going to tell you the bead counts, because if you got that box, this is what you're going to need from the box to make this necklace. But like I said, you can use whatever you have in your stash to make this piece. So I'm using, like I said earlier, 4 feet of 8-pound fireline. I'm using a size 10 beading needle. I'm using 12 6mm lucerna bicones, 24 5mm Czech fire polish beads, and they don't have to be 5. You can totally play around this side. They could be 6 if you wanted to, but 1mm bigger will make your piece longer. That is the whole thing. You have to see, you know, you'll have to just stitch along and see how far you can get with this piece. If you have a lot of beads, you could get this to wrap around more than once, but you will need more thread. And if you want this to be doubled, I'm doing a single wrap around my neck, you probably would want to do 8 feet of thread. Okay? And I'm also using 11 5mm Czech melon beads. This is going to be the center of my flowers, and this bead is perfect for a flower center. I didn't realize this until I went to go use it, but the melon bead has these little ridges on the sides there, and it sits perfectly in the center of the daisy flower. Okay? And I'm also using 24 4mm Czech fire polish beads and 33 3mm Czech fire polish beads, and my flat Czech flower bead there. And like I said, I'm using a bell flower for the bottom, but this is optional. You don't have to use this. You can use a button, lobster claw clasp, toggle, whatever you want. I'm also using 8/0 seed beads, but I'm only using this size because I like the variation of shapes and sizes in this, and this was the beads that I had on my bead tray at the time, so that's why I used 8/0s. And I'm using 11/0 toho seed beads, but you can use whatever brand you like. So the first thing we need to do is add an end, and we're either going to add the button end or the loop end. And from my experience, it's always been easier for me to do the button first, even in a wrap bracelet. So we're going to do our flower here, this here at the base, I'll show you that, and I'm going to pick up the bell flower first, okay, this flower, and then we're going to pick up 3 seed beads for the top of the flower and slide them down. Slide all of this down and pass back through these 2 flowers. So starting with a button always in my projects, when I go to make the loop, I will be able to make the loop the perfect size. I find that every time, I even struggled with this, when I try to make the loop first and then I get to the button, the loop and the button hardly ever match up. The loop is usually too big or too small, and I want to make them just right. So I'm going to leave a 6-inch tail on this. Oh my gosh, that's perfect at 6 inches. It's weird how that happens to me. That actually happens a lot to me over the years, okay? And I'm going to tie a surgeon's knot now. So over and under, pull this down, over and under twice, pull this down, and I'm just going to go over and under again to be secure. Okay? And now I'm going to start picking up my beads for stringing. And it's going to be a 4mm bead, a seed bead, and by the way, I'm leaving this tail here, and I'm going to weave that through here again and reinforce this area because I need this to be strong. Okay, so I picked up these 2 beads, and then I'm going to pick up a 3mm, a seed bead, 11/0 that is, okay, and then a 5mm, a seed bead, like that, an 8/0, a bicone, an 8/0, and then I'm going to be repeating this pattern here again. So it's going to be a seed bead, a 5mm, I'll slide these down, a 3mm, seed bead, and a 4mm. And I picked up the bronzy one. I'll pick up this pink looking one. See how this is like a iris brown or whatever? Slide all these down. And this is what I have. So this pattern right here, I'm going to be repeatedly picking this pattern up in between my daisy chain stitch. Okay? In between the flowers. So if you can come up with a pattern just like this, and you know what, maybe I should measure this so you have an idea of how long this is in case you're using beads from your stash. So this is just over 1.5 inches. It's 1 5/8 inches. Okay, you don't have to have that exact measurement, but close will help in making this length. Alright, now we're going to make a flower, which is the best part. I'm going to pick up 7 seed beads, and again these are 11/0 tohos, and I can't see from this far away how many I got. 7, okay, and then a melon. Slide the beads down, and then take your needle, go like this, find the first bead right here, the one beside this, just like that, and go back through, but in this direction, like you're making a teardrop, not a circle. But when you go through it and you pull it through, see the thread is in the shape of a teardrop. That's what I'm trying to say. But when you pull this through and you tighten it, it does look like half a circle then, okay? So see how my thread got loose there? So I have to hold the melon bead, the round bead, and pull this tail, and then I'm going to flip this over like that, hold it between my fingers, and pick up 5 11/0 seed beads. The lights are flickering. I must be having a power surge. 5 11s like that, and through this seed bead. So not that one there, but this one, which makes us look like we now have a full circle. This here is the easiest variation of the daisy chain, but the tutorial that I did long time ago, that was my favorite daisy chain because I figured out how to have greenery in between the flowers. Okay, now I have to repeat this pattern here again. So I just look back at what I did. It's going to be a 4mm, a seed bead, a 3mm, a seed bead, my 5mm seed bead, 8/0, bicone, 8/0, 5mm, slide this down, a seed bead, a 3mm seed bead, and then a 4mm. Just like that. It works up pretty quickly. And then I'm going to do 7 seed beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just picked up an 8th one, didn't I? Double check. I always have to double check that I pick up the right amount. I've had so many times where a seed bead just hops right onto my needle. Okay, pick up a melon or round bead, whatever round bead you have. Just like this. Okay, slide these beads down. Take the needle and you're going to go in this direction. Again, making a teardrop shape with your thread. And then when you pull that down, that teardrop shape, the seed beads form half a circle around the round bead. Okay, and then you have to hold this like this between your fingers, the seed bead side. I'm trying to get this flip. And don't worry if it's loose right now, because once you hold it like this, pull this thread, it tightens up. Also, even after adding these beads here, this can still get loose. So the point where you have to pull it tight is after you add all of your beads, really. So there's 5 beads. Okay, and I'm going to pass through this seed bead on the top of my melon, going in this direction. So see my teardrop shape there of thread? Then I go through here. Okay, pull it through. See how it does that? And then you have to push that bead there in the center, pull this tight, wiggle your thread, and it will tighten everything up. Okay, just like that. It's really cute. I love these colors. And then again, I have to repeat this pattern. So a 4, 11, a 3, an 11, a 5, an 11, an 8, bicone, an 8, an 11, slide them down, a 5, an 11, a 3, 11, and a 4 was the last color. It was kind of copper looking. So there's a bronze one. Okay, so there's that pattern. Okay, and then I have to pick up 7 seed beads again. I'm going to show you how to do it this last time, and then I'll let you do it by yourself. I picked up 8, so I'll remove that 8th one there. Okay, and then 1 melon bead. Slide that down. Move these beads like that, and pass down through this first seed bead, making a teardrop shape with your thread. Okay, like that. And then hold it like this with the seed beads. Just like that. Pick up 5 seed beads. And go through this one right here, pull this through, okay, see the slack? So then you have to hold it like this and pull this all down, and the whole piece there, well, this section to here tightens up. So see, there's no slack then. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to be repeating this and adding a flower. I'm back, and as you can see, I have pretty much all of my beads strung on, and I'm ready to do my loop now. But I have to tell you guys, I got all the way to this point here, right, my last bead before my loop, and I'm like, I should check and make sure that I did everything right. So I went back and to check my work, and right here I was missing a seed bead. So I undid the whole thing just to pick up that one seed bead. It was very easy to do because it's mostly stringing, but I hate it whenever I skip beads, and I see it a lot when I go to edit the video. What happens is I pick up the beads and all of a sudden the bead just falls off, and I go on to pick up the next bead and I didn't see it. Mostly because I have a big tripod and a camera in front of my face, but man, that drives me crazy. But I always go back and fix it when I can. And you know what's funny is one time I made a mistake in a design and I filmed a tutorial on it, I didn't catch it, and someone ended up catching my mistake, and they had the funniest comment to my mistake. It was really hilarious. You guys crack me up. So let's continue this here. So that's what I left off with, the same pattern, okay? I'm going to pick up beads for my loop now, and if you want, you can do just seed beads here. But I decided to do these 3mm with the seed beads, because I didn't know what else I would do with these 3mm, because I only had a few of them left, right? So that's the pattern I'm going to do. And I am doing, I'll show you once I get them all. Slide those down. Seed bead, 3mm seed bead. Okay, I am doing, not counting that in my loop, I am doing 9, can you see that? 9 3mm Czech fire polish beads, and I'm starting and ending with an 11/0 seed bead. Now, this amount works with this Czech flower bead, okay? But if you're using something bigger or smaller, you will have to figure out how many you need. And what I just do is I take my needle and I sew back through this 4mm that's at the beginning, okay? I slide this down, I wrap this around my fingers, I pull it tight, and then I take this and see if it'll pass through. And if it does, we're good to go. If it's too small, I add more beads, and if it's too big, I take some out. So that's what you will have to do to get your loop to fit your closure, okay? Now what I do is I take my needle and I sew up through all of these beads right here, and I go to my daisy. I gotta get to my daisy because I want to turn around. Okay, see that right there? I went through all of these beads. I'm going to pull this through. Okay, it's a little loose right there, so I put my finger in this loop, pull this tight. I'm going to turn around right here at the daisy. So see how I have my thread on this side of the seed bead? I'm going to take my needle and go through the opposite side of the seed bead. Okay, like that. Pull that tight. And then I'm going to sew back down, and I'm not going to tie knots yet because my goal is to reinforce that loop. And this area here is usually the weakest part. If I tie knots right now going down here, I'm going to clog up these holes and I won't be able to pass back through them again. Okay, so I just got to get out this bead right here. Okay. Pull this tight. If you want, you can check your button again, make sure it works. Yep. I always make sure that this isn't too big. If it's just a little bit too big, this can fall right through. So you want just enough tension to where it kind of like snaps on. Alright, now I'm going to go through a seed bead. And let's see, do I loop back through then tie knots there? I think I want to. Yeah. Wait. I have to see because it's just like as long as my needle. I'm gonna go through these 3mm and tie some knots in them. That's what I'm gonna do. So I came out there. Tension's perfect. There's no tail. I'm gonna tie some knots in here. Not a lot, just a little bit. Because I don't know if I will have enough tail to tie my knots in this area. Okay, so I went through a bead. I'll go through 2 more. I'll tie another knot here, go through 2 more beads, and I just keep going, tie knots. Yeah, we're gonna have to tie all of our knots in this area. Okay, so again, I would tie a knot in front of the 3mm, go through there, then come up through here. If you can, tie knots here, but you probably won't be able to. But I just like to run the rest of my tail up through these beads as much as I can, and then trim the tail off. And then you're gonna take your needle and you're gonna put it on to this one over here. You know what? I think I'm gonna come back and finish this off with you guys because I want to see how this end will go. Oh, you know what? What we're gonna do? It's gonna be the same as this side. Yeah. So we already looped around here. Right there is our loop. It's just 3 seed beads in that loop. So right now, what I would do is I would take my needle, go through all of these beads. Okay. I would come out here, and then I would take my needle coming out here, and I would go through this seed bead just like I did on the other end. Okay, so I have a thread on each side of that one seed bead, and then I would go back down through there, loop around, and then I would tie knots in here. I think that's how I would do this side, right? So that's pretty much it. Oh, and I'll show you, I don't know if I can, there's a needle on there. I'll show you, you can wrap this around your wrist 3 times like this, and then easily put it on like that. I did realize with this one though, do you see how my flowers are kind of stacked? That happens sometimes. I don't think it looks bad though in this. Sometimes when I have stacked areas like that, it doesn't look too hot, but I don't mind it in this one. But isn't that cool? I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please like this video, leave me a comment, subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. Make sure you click the bell button so that you get notified whenever I upload new videos, and check me out on social media sites. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter. Thanks for watching.